Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the Web Yeshiva, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. This week's Parsha is Beresheit, begins the reading of the Torah anew. And the topic of what I'm going to be talking about in these few minutes is completion and beginning, survival tools to get us through the bumpy roads of life. We just, as a Jewish people, finished celebrating the joyous holidays of Sukkot, ending in Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. We completed the reading of the first 5 books of the Torah and immediately began again. There are a number of lessons that we can learn from this process and a number of tools that we can use as we go through life. First of all, when we sat in the Sukkah, and we recognized that it's not the brick and stone of our houses that protects us. We sat in a little tiny hut, a temporary hut that was made to last for 7 days of the holiday. And it was covered with schach, with the covering of branches or something similar that grows on the ground. And we learned and we recognized that our only true shelter comes from God. That God is always protecting us. The message of the Sukkah, as any Jewish holiday, we have to be able to take that message and play it forward and bring it into the time after Sukkot. So just as during the Sukkot holiday, we recognized that God is the sole protector for us, that we can take that same protection into the year. Now, we finished reading the Torah, and the last words of the Torah in the Parsha of Bracha, of Zos HaBracha, which we read on, depending on whether you're in Israel or outside of Israel. In Israel, we read it on Tuesday. Outside of Israel, we read it on Wednesday. The last words of the Torah are very interesting and contain a very important message for us and contain survival tools for us. The Torah is describing the last days of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Moses, before he dies. And the very last sentence, after it talks about the greatness that Moshe had witnessed and been a part of, it ends with the words, La'enei Kol Yisrael, in the eyes of all of the people of Israel. We immediately started the beginning of the Torah. The beginning of the Torah is Bereshis Bora Elokim Es HaShemayim V'Ha'aretz. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Going back to the last few words of the end of the Torah, La'enei Kol Yisrael, if you take the last letter of all of those 3 words, La'enei, Kol, and Yisrael, it spells the Hebrew word Kli, Kof Lamed Yud. Kli means a vessel. So the Torah is telling us what kind of a vessel we need to be able to navigate life. We have a hint because the first thing that the first thing in that sentence that is said is la'enei, eyes. We have to use our eyes. The last letter of the Torah is the letter Lamed. The first letter is the letter of Bereshis, Beit. Lamed Beit spells heart. The Torah is telling us that in order to be a kli, to be a vessel to receive God's protection, we have to do it with einayim, with eyes open that we can see the light around us, see what is real and what is not real, see what God wants of us, and Lev, the last two letters, the last letter Lamed and Beit of the first letter of Bereshis, Lev, einayim and Lev, eyes and heart. Those are the kli. Those are the vessels that we need. We have to use our eyes to see, as Reb Shlomo Carlebach used to say, the good in every person. Mashiach eyes. Don't look for the bad. Look for the good. We have to use our heart to be able to understand that we have an obligation to love people, to treat people with our heart, not just intellectually, but with our heart. And we go into Bereshit, in the first Parsha, and the connection between einayim, eyes. You need light to really see. You need light to cut through the darkness. So on the very first day of creation, God tells us in the Sefer Bereshis, the very first day, he says, God created the light. And then he says, Vayar Elokim et ha'or ki tov. And he saw that the light was good. Now, what kind of light did he create? This wasn't the sun or the moon or the stars. That was created a period later, a number of days later. Created the light, a very special light. This is a special light that supposedly, as we're taught in the Meforshim, it was put aside for the tzaddikim. It's also the light that comes out on Shabbos. Now, there's an interesting statement that was made by the Kobrinner, the Rabbi of Lubavitch, who said, Vayomer Hashem Yehi Or, God said, let there be light, Vayehi Or, and there was light. Yehudi Hanimtza B'Chasheichas Omer, a Jew who was found in the darkness, says, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world, Ani Mevakesh Mimcha Yehi Or, I ask of you, let there be light. Ad Mosai Eya B'Chasheichot Kazu, how long do I have to sit in darkness? Shani Ba'atzmi Eino Mesugal Liachletz Mimenu. By myself, with my own power, I can't get out of this darkness. Rachem Olai, have mercy on me. Bahar Ato Einai, light up my eyes. Belibi and my heart. Lirot Ba'orcha Or, to see the light of your light. And if you ask that question, if you request that of God, Az Ahi Or, then there will be light. Ozelo Hashem Yisborach Meirlo. Hashem will help you, and you will see light. There's a quick story I want to end with. They tell a story of a 95-year-old woman in a nursing home who was non-communicative, never talked to anybody, never said a word. And a young girl volunteering went to spend an hour with her and tried talking to her. She didn't answer. The whole time the woman was looking out the window. And finally, time to get up, the young lady who was there trying to converse with her unsuccessfully said, she got up to leave, and she said, tell me, what do you see out there? Why are you looking out the window? What do you see? And the woman answered, I see the light. My blessing to all of us as may we be able to see the light that God gives us, and that will be our survival tool to get out of the darkness of whatever bumpy road lies ahead. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. Shabbat Shalom.